Emily Carter turned 41 on a quiet Tuesday. No party, no candles, no surprises. She woke before her alarm, stared at the ceiling, and counted the small cracks she had memorized over the years. Birthdays used to make her feel excited. They felt like gentle reminders that time was moving, whether she moved with it or not. She lived alone in a modest house in a calm neighborhood in Oregon. Streets were clean, the neighbors polite, the days predictable. Emily worked as an office administrator for a local insurance firm. It paid well enough, never asked too much, and rarely surprised her. That used to feel like peace. Lately, it felt like waiting. Her marriage had ended 5 years earlier, quietly and without drama. No shouting, no betrayal that made headlines. Just a people who slowly realized they were no longer growing in the same direction. After the divorce, Emily promised herself she would rebuild carefully. And she did. New routines. New rules. No risks. She stopped doing things that made her uncomfortable. She stopped starting over. She told herself that comfort was the same as happiness. On the morning of her birthday, stood in her kitchen holding a mug of coffee she had forgotten to drink. Outside, autumn had begun to change the trees. Leaves turned red and gold without. Apology, Emily watched them fall and felt a strange ache she could not explain. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from her friend Laura. I signed you up for a community writing workshop, starts tonight. Don't say no yet. Emily frowned. Writing was something she had loved once. Years ago, she filled notebooks with thoughts, small stories, feelings she could not say out loud. Life had slowly pushed that habit aside. She told herself she was too busy, too tired, too practical. Her first reaction was irritation. Laura always pushed her, always believed Emily needed more than she allowed herself. Emily typed a reply, erased it, then set the phone down without answering. All day at work, her focus drifted. Emails blurred together. Numbers made no sense. She caught herself staring at the clock, feeling restless for no clear reason. The idea of that workshop followed her like a question she did not want to answer. After work, she drove home as usual. She cooked dinner, ate alone, washed the dishes. Everything was familiar, safe, but something inside her felt heavy at 6:30. She stood in her bedroom holding a sweater. The workshop started at 7. She told herself she could still ignore it. No one would be upset. Life would continue, as planned. Instead, she put the sweater on. The drive to the community center was short. She parked across the street and sat in the car, hands on the steering wheel. Through the windows, she could see people walking inside. They looked relaxed, curious, brave in small ways. Emily's heart beat faster. She almost laughed at herself. It was just a class, just words. But fear does not always make sense. She took a deep breath, opened the car door, and crossed the street. The room was warm and softly lit. Folding chairs formed a loose circle. A few people chatted quietly. The instructor greeted Emily with a smile and handed her a pen and a notebook. As Emily looked for an empty seat, she noticed a man sitting near the window. He was writing, completely focused, his brow slightly furrowed. There was nothing dramatic about him, yet something about his calm presence made her pause. Daniel Brooks looked up, met her eyes, and smiled politely. It was brief, kind, and unforced. Emily felt an unexpected flutter in her chest and quickly looked away, annoyed with herself. The class began with simple introductions. People shared their names, jobs, and reasons for coming. Some wanted to publish. Some wanted a hobby. Some just wanted to feel less alone. When it was Daniel's turn, he spoke in a steady voice. He said he worked in urban planning. He said he liked walking, old songs, and quiet mornings. Then he added that he felt stuck repeating the same version of his life and hoped writing might help him see differently. Emily listened closely. His words felt honest, not dramatic. When her turn came, Emily hesitated. She hated attention. Something inside her pushed forward. I'm Emily, she said. I work in an office. I used to write a lot. I stopped. She paused, surprised by her own honesty. I think I forgot how to try new things. The instructor nodded as if that made perfect sense. The first exercise was simple. Write 10 minutes without stopping. No editing, no judgment. Emily stared at the blank page. Then, slowly, words came. About mornings that felt too quiet, about choices she did not make, about how fear sometimes dressed itself as responsibility. Her hand cramped. Her heart felt lighter. When time was up, she realized she had filled 3 pages. Some people volunteered to read. Emily did not. She was not ready, but she listened, fully present, fully awake in a way she had not felt in years. When the session ended, chairs scraped against the floor as people stood. Emily gathered her things, hoping to leave unnoticed. As she reached the door, Daniel appeared beside her. You're writing, he said gently. It felt strong. Emily blinked. I didn't read anything. He smiled. I could tell. She laughed softly, surprised by how easy it felt. They walked out together into the cool evening air. In the parking lot. They spoke for a few minutes. About the class. About how strange it felt to begin something new later in life. I almost didn't. Come, Emily admitted. Me too, Daniel said. I almost talked myself out of it. They shared a quiet understanding, then went their separate ways. That night, Emily lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her mind replayed the evening. The writing, the feeling of being seen without being exposed, the calm warmth of Daniel's voice. She told herself it meant nothing. It was just a class. But when she fell asleep, she dreamed of open doors. Over the next week, Emily felt different. Not happier exactly, but more aware. She noticed small things, the smell of rain, the sound of laughter in the grocery store, the way her own reflection looked less tired. She returned to the workshop the next week without hesitation. This time, she sat beside Daniel. They exchanged small smiles, nothing more. But something quiet passed between them, like recognition. As the weeks continued, Emily began to look forward to Thursdays. She wrote more. She listened better. She spoke when she usually stayed silent. Daniel was thoughtful and kind. He never pushed, never crossed lines. He asked questions that mattered and listened to the answers. Emily learned he was divorced too. That he had a teenage daughter. That he once wanted to be a musician but chose stability instead. Their conversations stayed light, but meaning lived. Underneath, one evening, as Emily drove home after class, she realized something important. She was no longer afraid of going, and that scared her, in a new way, because trying something new had awakened parts of her she thought were gone. And she did not yet know what those parts would ask of her next. The weeks after the workshop began to change Emily in ways she did not expect. Life did not suddenly become dramatic or loud. Instead, it felt clearer, like a fog slowly lifting. She woke earlier. She walked longer. She wrote every morning before work, even if it was only a few lines. The pages did not judge her. They waited. Daniel became a steady presence. They sat together each Thursday, sometimes sharing work, sometimes only sharing silence. There was comfort in knowing someone understood, without asking for explanations. Emily had missed that more than she realized after one class. Daniel asked if she wanted to get coffee nearby. The question was casual, respectful, leaving space for no. Emily felt the familiar hesitation rise, then fade. She said yes before fear could speak. The cafe was small and warm, filled with soft music and quiet conversations. They talked about writing at first, then about life. Not the surface details, but the spaces in between. Daniel spoke about his daughter leaving for college soon, how pride and sadness lived side by side. Emily spoke about her marriage ending, how silence sometimes hurt more than anger. They did not rush. Time passed easily. From that night on, coffee became walks, walks became dinners. Always gentle, always honest. Emily noticed how Daniel never tried to impress her. He was simply himself. And somehow, that felt like the bravest thing. Still, fear did not disappear. One evening, after a long walk by the river, Emily felt it rise again. The closeness was growing. So is the risk. I don't know how to do this without losing myself, she said quietly. Daniel stopped walking. Then don't lose yourself, he said. Bring yourself. Not asking you to disappear. His words stayed with her. Emily spent days thinking. She thought about how she had built her life after the divorce, strong but closed. She thought about how safety had kept her standing, but also still. She wondered when protecting herself had turned into hiding. At work, she caught herself smiling for no reason. At home, the quiet felt less heavy. Yet at night, doubt returned. What if this ended like before? What if hope cost too much? One afternoon, Laura visited. They sat on the porch with iced tea. Emily spoke carefully, choosing words like fragile. Glass, I'm afraid of starting again, she admitted. Laura nodded. You're more afraid of staying the same. That night, Emily wrote until her hands hurt. She wrote about age, about time, about how bravery did not disappear with youth. She realized something important. She had been waiting to feel ready, but readiness was not something that arrived. It was something you chose. The final week of the workshop came sooner than she expected. The room felt different. Everyone had changed in small ways. The instructor asked them to read one piece that mattered to them. Emily stood, heart pounding. Her story was about a woman who lived carefully until one day she stepped through a door she had been avoiding. It was not a love story. It was a becoming story. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then applause filled the space, warm and real. Daniel watched her with pride, not possession. That mattered. After the class ended, people hugged, exchanged numbers, promised to keep writing. Outside, the night air felt alive. Daniel walked beside Emily. Would you like to keep writing together? He asked. Not as a class, just as two people. Emily looked at him, really looked. She saw kindness, patience, and truth. She also saw risk. Yes, she said. And for once, she did not feel afraid after saying it. They did not rush into labels or promises. Weeks passed. Shared meals, books, quiet mornings. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they pulled back. But they talked. Always talked. Emily learned that love did not have to be loud to be strong. It did not need to rescue or consume. It could stand beside her, steady and respectful. One evening, after a long day, Emily found herself overwhelmed. Old fears returned, sharp and sudden. She almost canceled dinner with Daniel. Instead, she told him the truth. I'm scared, she said. Not of you. Of how much this matters? Daniel reached for her hand, gentle and sure. Then let it matter, he said. We'll be careful, but we won't be closed. Something settled inside her. Months later, Emily stood in her kitchen again, holding a warm mug of coffee. The house was still, but it no longer felt empty. On the table lay her notebook, filled with words. Outside, the trees were changing again. She realized she was no longer waiting. Trying new things had not changed her life overnight. It had changed her direction. And that was enough. Emily smiled, picked up her pen, and kept going.